We have a serious problem, and it's true everywhere. The closer you get to the country's tallest buildings, a 59-year-old guy was carjacked in Chicago yesterday, and one of the suspects was 11 years old, who hit the
What?
11 years old. So wherever you get closest to the country's tallest buildings, there is a terrible crime problem, and there is a terrible crime problem in Minneapolis. And what the officials seem to be doing now is rallying for bigger and bigger press conferences. The mayor yesterday, appearing with Chief Arredondo, said there must be a turning point. The ultimate goal is to make all Minneapolis neighborhoods safe. Well, I got thinking about this. It's horrible. We have now a third child hit. Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Yep. A child is in the hospital following a shooting in Minneapolis overnight. The third child injured by gunfire since April 30. This was shortly after 11 p.m. Monday on Penn Avenue North. A preteen girl was shot when the vehicle she was riding in was struck by gunfire. The driver drove her directly to Hennepin County Medical Center. A man was also injured by gunfire in the same incident. He was taken to North Memorial by private vehicle. Both victims are in critical condition. Back to the mayor and the chief, not so much the chief. A couple of things need to be put on the table, but we don't have the leadership to do it. I got thinking that Fry and the city council, they're about 2 or 3 generations removed from the progressive instincts that brought about this in the first place. This is generational. The destruction of the American black family can be directly linked to Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, for example. We have allowed the black family to disintegrate in this country. And now you are seeing resulting behavior problems that come from such disruptions in the family. And none of these leaders are going to be capable of addressing that. I was alerted by an emailer friend of ours, Steve Mulholland, who lives in the belly of the beast, to listen to Philippe Cunningham today. He linked me to a radio interview that Philippe Cunningham did this morning. And again, utter gibberish. And it's important to note that Philippe Cunningham and Keith Ellison were the only council people who did not appear with Fry yesterday. Fry for his big remarks. Fry said he's working to end traffic stops for low-level offenses such as small objects hanging from mirrors and inoperable license plate lights. He said he's working with the state to stop making expired tabs a primary reason for police to stop a driver. Again, there's so many directions we could go here. But what these leaders cannot acknowledge is that they are dealing with an utter collapse of behavior. They're dealing with an absence of moral and ethical clarity. And they think if we just have some more money, if we just have some more community meetings, if we just have some more mad grandmothers buying together, this is not a gun problem. This is not a police problem. This is a behavior problem by young people. For the most part in Minneapolis, I'm going to speculate this. It seems to me that this is pretty much gang driven, that these gangsters are shooting each other. And in the act of shooting each other, they're missing and they're wounding children. They're taking down innocent people with their gun battles. We need a leader to say, Chief, we're turning you loose. You haul those gangsters into jail. We also have to go after judges who keep releasing them.
Thank you. That was the part I was going to mention.
You have to go after judges who keep releasing them. So I'm starting with that. Chief, I'm turning you loose. Crackdown. Crackdown. You know who these gangsters are. Haul them in, arrest them, and keep them in jail. They cannot be bailed out by community activists. They can't be immediately released back on the street. You've got to weed out the gangsters. That's the whole problem in Minneapolis. And these people they're born of the political ideology that has led us to this point in American history. These are the descendants of the political ideologues who led us to this point in American history. And back to this Philippe Cunningham. He apparently, consciously, it appears, is having wishes to have a war with Fry. He wishes to say my ideas are better than the mayor's. Well, no, they're not, Philippe. None of your ideas are any good because none of them address the problem. None of them. You can stand on the corner of North Minneapolis like the mayor and the chief and the council did yesterday, and you can wring your hands and say, it's time to crack down. Well, then, if it's time to crack down, let the cops crack down. Let the cops crack down and quit crying about police behavior.
Okay, but that's what needs to be dissected is we need to really crack down. What does that mean?
Well,
I would want to know
what
from
it
the
means.
activists, but I want to know what the activists are saying, or what the people in the community. You can't just say we got to do something about it, and then let these gangbangers who are shooting people, and somebody knows who they are.
That's right. That's where the crackdown comes, and that's where the police take action and haul their asses in, and they don't get released.
And it's what we said yesterday.
If they're guilty of gun crimes, I'm saying they don't. I'm not saying you pluck an innocent person off the street. I'm saying if you know gangsters who've been firing at people, you arrest them and they don't get released.
It's exactly what we said yesterday, and it's what a passerby said at Fry's presser yesterday. A guy walking by said his plan isn't going to work because the cops show up after the crime is committed.
Right.
And like we said yesterday, you've got to go in there right now. The cops know all these guys. They know who they are. We have a gang division, and take them off the street right now and hold them indefinitely. The guy said, he said, if you want the hitters, go up to Broadway right now.
That's right.
If you want to get out and stop it, you've got to get out there in person. And that's exactly how it's going to happen.
But they don't understand that their thinking, their worldview as a political class is not even remotely close to understanding this problem.
Right.
So
That's the overriding problem is that their worldview, their thinking processes are the opposite of being able to acknowledge what this problem is, because they've spent their political capital, they spent their political lives catering and kowtowing to people who they believe can't get along without them.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I was going to the Twins game with our buddy Corey that we saw yesterday at the state fairgrounds.
Sully?
Yep. And I parked, Kenny, you know exactly where this is, in the Butler Square parking lot, the one that's open right in front of the Loon and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
I sat there about the third row in. I was one of 5 cars in the whole parking lot. It was about 5:30. And I was sitting in there for 10 minutes and saw at least 4 drug deals on that corner. I could not believe it. Broad daylight, no care in the world. They didn't care if anybody saw them. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it.
Fry said, and this is obviously wise, he wants to increase funding for police. He wants to provide more overtime. He wants more police on the streets. So he's fighting 2 battles. He's fighting these adult children nipping at his heels on the city council who don't want police, and he's fighting the battle to try to get the money to fund more police and hopefully get police recruits. Did you see where the police recruiting class in St. Paul is down by about half?
Yeah.
Who wants to do it?
Right. Well, and especially because obviously we all know what Philippe Cunningham's motive is here. He wants to be mayor.
I don't know that. I don't know that, but that's a reasonable speculation.
All right, I'm going to play this then.
We don't know that.
It's a reasonable speculation, but he's vacuous. His thinking is dangerously empty. That's the problem.
His comments are dangerously empty. He never speaks where it makes any sense or he makes a point.
No.
It's all very obscure platitudes that make
And
no
he'll
difference.
go on the local radio stations that are not going to confront him. Mm-hmm. He was not confronted powerfully this morning on the radio.
No, it wasn't even softball questions. It was beach ball questions.
Well, not entirely, but my point is that he's not going to come on with us. He's not going to allow me to go after him.
No.
Of course not.
Philippe, why is that?
The police chief's role is to be able to have a vision
Yeah.
of what it means for us to have a strong focus on what should police be focusing on.
It gets better every time.
Wow.
He needs to be picked up by the scruff of the neck and dragged out of the council chambers and never allowed to return. Unfortunately, that city has to wait around for the next election to get rid of him.
And what makes you think he'll be gotten rid of?
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
That's the problem.
But Joe, everything we've talked about up until this point it's doable. I mean, it could happen, but like I said yesterday, and like Aaron Dono said yesterday, it comes down to the Hennepin County judges.
Yeah,
If
quit
they're not
letting these
gonna
people
hold
out.
him, if they're not going to hold him, what's the point? And how do we convince these jackasses to keep him in jail?
You know, Walls, in a typical Walls folly, didn't he pay $6.5 million for a fruit warehouse that I wanted to convert to a homeless situation? Okay, forget my idea. Turn it into another jail if you need more room.
Yep.
But get these guys off the street, and you'll end the shootings. The average black kid in Minneapolis is not walking down the street shooting people. Who's the fellow whose columns we've read?
Hold on, I got it right here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Marcus Hunter II.
Right.
Imagine
Marcus Hunter.
Imagine you're a black male teen.
I mean, there's a million Marcus Hunters who are in danger because of gangsters. He's not in danger of white kids shooting him. He's not in danger of the police. He's in danger of his own peers because they are in gangs and they shoot at each other. And when they shoot at each other, they more often than not hit somebody innocent. Like right now, 3 kids since April 30th. All of whom are struggling to live and might not make it.
One girl, jumping on a trampoline in her backyard?
That was Saturday night.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a real good city you got there.
9 years old.
The problem to a GLer is so simple, and that simplicity is the result of our frustration. No GLers run for office, or very few do. And Minneapolis needs an overhaul from top to bottom. It needs a completely different mindset in order for that city to survive. Because with Fry and these clowns on the city council, you're not going to get anywhere. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. And what they need to do is, like I said, you tell the chief, you do what you need to do, chief. Get these gangsters off the street. I'm going to start working the phones in the legislature and everybody else to get the judges to commit them and not release them. Period. End of story. And not Marcus Hunter walk to school in peace.
But every time Fry does have an accidental good idea, he's got chuckleheads like Lisa Bender and this Cunningham knucklehead
Knocking it down.
poo-pooing it. Yeah.
And why is it or why is it off limits to talk about the real problem, and that's the broken home? Why is it off limits?
Because they can't, because that's not in their thinking. They were raised with such a liberal orthodoxy that they think that the progressives have done nothing but a favor to black America. When in fact, they've done nothing but help ruin it in many cases. Black America, of course, is not ruined. But you go back, I don't know how many years you'd have to go back. You go back 60 years, there were probably 88% of black families were intact with mom and dad and the kids. And these kids today are not getting an upbringing that would preclude them from being gangsters. And these overwrought moms, what are they supposed to do? Run out and grab the kid by the ear? We've seen that before.
Yeah, the mom in Baltimore, remember
In Baltimore, yeah. God bless her. That's
just came down and said, "You're coming with me."
Mm-hmm.
But also the problem is the moms that are working a couple jobs, raising their kids, they're away so much because they're working that the kids are left to fend for themselves. And that's really awful, too, because then they're just absorbed into society as opposed to the mom saying, did you get your homework done, Jenny? Tom, did you finish all your stuff? They're set up for failure.
Chief Arredondo, during this press conference yesterday, he did address the judges' situation.
Yep.
He cited he delivered a specific message to Hennepin County judges, urging them not to go easy on first and second time offenders. When you are releasing violent individuals back to our community, there is a price we pay, he said. Yes, don't release them. They're shooting at each other and injuring children.
And if he stops, or excuse me, if judges stop that, these criminals will see that. Oh, I can't just get away with it for a first time offense. And maybe a few, even if it helps wise up a few of them, it at least has an impact.
Sherry Jennings of Minneapolis, the grandmother of a 10-year-old boy shot last month, and who left his bedside at North Memorial in Robbinsdale to respond to the mayor after seeing him online. She stepped up to the microphone next to Fry. When is North Minneapolis going to stand up? When is enough? Jennings said. There's 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, fighting for their life. My grandson didn't deserve this. And she's speaking about a guy named Latavion Garrett Jr., who was a passenger in a vehicle when he was shot by someone from outside the vehicle April 30th. On Morgan Avenue North. And on Saturday night, you had 9-year-old Trinity Smith shot in the head while bouncing on a trampoline. And then last night you had another one. But this woman, I God bless her, she's suffering right now because of her grandchild. But she said, when is enough enough? That's not the answer either. No, the answer is we've long passed the point when enough's enough.
Oh, yeah.
We've long passed that point. You got to arrest gangsters, and they got to be kept in jail.
And it shouldn't
Other than
be.
that, I don't have an answer.
And if the issue is there's not enough space, then build another goddamn facility.
Fill the fruit warehouse.
right.
Yeah, Wall spent $6.5 million a year for that for no reason at all. No reason, unless I'd love to know the real reason.
'Cause his
I'd
buddy-
love to know the deep down story of that.
I better not say what I was going to say.
Well, I wouldn't either. What
Okay.
the
I'll
hell?
bite you down there.